Hey there viewers, Maverick here from Switch 2. Thanks for tuning in. I was just sitting here, I think it's about 2 AM, and I was just sitting here having decided to stop work for the day and sit back and enjoy a vape rather than just puffing as I go along working and not noticing the pleasures that I get from it. And I was reflecting on the fact that I haven't done a video, I haven't talked about, you know, apart from all the health benefits and apart from the cost advantages and apart from the legal position that you can smoke indoors and the fact that it can help you stay away from cigarettes very successfully, you know, this vaping malarkey is a great thing in itself, and there's a lot of great minds out there inventing a lot of great stuff, you know, functional stuff, good looking stuff, nice juices. It really is a whole new world, which smoking never was. Smoking was just an addiction that most of the time, speaking for myself, I was pissed off that I couldn't get away from it. And I certainly didn't enjoy the flavour, ever, if I'm honest. Vaping is just a whole new world. It's really hard to understand when you've been doing it for in my 14th month now. When you've been doing it for that long, having smoked for 30 years, and you see other people smoking cigarettes, and you feel, I walk down the street and I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them that they haven't found an e-cig yet, and they're still living in the dark ages with the tobacco cigarette, when this will do the same thing for them with all the benefits. And apart from vaping itself, on whatever device, and I'm just enjoying some juicy vapor ectoplasm here, which is gorgeous, it's the vaping community and the forums and the people you meet, and they're nearly all exclusively ex-smokers who are thrilled out of their boots that they found this and they want to talk to everybody about it. But usually only other ex-smokers want to listen. So there's this whole wonderful community if you haven't found it yet. And you make friends with people and they'll give you advice, and be it you know, another consumer or a vendor, they'll all talk to you. It's fantastic. And it's really an aspect of switching to electronic cigarettes that I haven't touched on. But it's maybe the best thing about it that you get out of it. And but you know, I sit here and okay, I sell the thing, so you know, I'm lucky, and I'm sitting here going through various e-cigs. This is the mix, and this has got 2 cartridges in it. I've got blueberry and menthol in here at the moment, and you can press a button and get one flavour or the other or both together. And blueberry menthol works very well. I'm just working on my smoke rings. And it's great, but I'm rambling. I was thinking how great it was and where the future lies. And then I was thinking about another ad I saw today for cheap, minging, horrible e-cigs, one of the very early models, which actually I used to make the transition. But I had a cheap, horrible tasting, poor performing e-cig, which did the trick. And then led me to this wonderful world, all these flavours and all these nice gadgets and stuff and different upgrades and things you can have and enjoy it in different ways and discuss it with people. But when I bought my cheap minging kit, I got it for the cheap minging price of £5, which included an e-cig, a USB charger and 10 cartridges. And I have talked about this before, but the sound was crap, and I hope it's not going to be this time. But you know, you may have seen ads showing cartridges in a box that's this size and shape, probably dressed up in different colours, okay? Because what this was is a little plastic tray in here, which I've put somewhere, but it got 10 little cartridges, and I don't know if you can see that on the back. 10 little cartridges, just like the top filter part of a cigarette, made to look like that. And they had a little tiny plastic cartridge in with filler material, and soaked into that was some e-liquid, no more than 0.2 mil max. And you got no more than 40 decent puffs out of that max. Now nobody can say how big a puff is, because, you know, what's a puff? You know, it's different for everybody. But a fair and reasonable representation of how many puffs you get out of a cigarette is governed by, well, there's lots of things. There's a liquid, and there's a voltage, and the battery life. But most often, when we refer to the number of puffs you get, we're referring to what you get out of a cartridge or a tank like this, out of the volume of e-liquid that's in it, whether it's a refillable one or a disposable cartridge. Now, the rule of thumb is, and I think it's a fair representation, is that 1 mil gives you about 200 puffs, which we say is roughly equivalent to 20 cigarettes, allowing 10 puffs per cigarette. And when you consider how many cigarettes you waste, and you used to put out before getting on the bus, or because your wife's just caught you when you told you weren't going to smoke anymore today, or, you know, your mum's coming around the corner if you're younger, or, you know, my daughter was hiding cigarettes from my mother till she was 20 something. But 10 drags out of a cigarette is probably about average, and I think that's a fair enough assessment. And so if you're selling something with a cartridge that holds 1 mil, and you say it gives you about 200 puffs, about the equivalent of 20 cigarettes, it's not precise, can't be, but it's intended to be informative and to give you an idea of the equivalent value of the device or the cartridge compared to cigarettes. So you can then judge, if you're new to vaping and electronic cigarettes, whether you're getting value for money, right? And that's what everybody does, and the responsible retailers try and give you accurate information. And they back up the claims they make with technical information, as I do, that tells you how many mils is in the cartridge and how much liquid it holds and what the battery power is, what the milliamp power is. Okay? So you can judge for yourself whether we're making fair comment or not, and you can do some, you know, empirical based research. Now, what gets my goat is the number of ads I see for these things, which is fair enough when they were knocking them out for a £5, and I bought mine off Amazon 14 months ago. But people sell these with a cheap little e-cig with maybe a 90 mAh battery for 50 quid. Okay, I've seen these cartridges, one box of these cartridges on sale for £20, okay, where they've got 10 cartridges in it that give you, with a total of 2 mil, in, you know, 0.2 mil in each cartridge, you've got a total of 2 mil, you'll probably get 40 cigarettes out of a whole lot. And they tell you that each one gives you 20, and it's the same as 200 cigarettes. They don't back it up by telling you how many mil is in it, because they're lying to you. They know full well it's not going to give it as many puffs. And furthermore, they're charging you an absolute fortune for it, because a box of 10 of these can be bought from China. All right, you have to spend a few hundred quid and buy them by the 1,000. They can be bought for considerably less than 50p for 10 cartridges. And there's people out there with the nerve to sell them for 20 quid. Now, they're not here to look after their customers. Those companies aren't here because they care. They're just in it for a fast buck. Right? Just rip you off. They do it by mail order. They keep repackaging it under different names, and they give it nice flashy packaging. Usually put it all in a cigarette package, because this fits inside a cigarette sized box, and they put the charger in it and one battery, and sell you 20, 30, 40, 50 quid. And they put the ads in the newspapers, and people obviously buy them, because these ads are everywhere. And furthermore, I talk to people in the streets all the time. You know, when I'm walking down the street, I've stopped the smokers and given my card, and have you heard of e-cigs? And if they're not prepared to listen, it's usually because they say to me, yeah, I tried one and it was rubbish and it tasted like garbage. And it's because, and it was expensive and I was ripped off, and e-cigs are a scam. And they now very hard to convince that e-cigs are anything other than a scam, okay, because they've been scammed. Can you blame them? Now that pisses me off, all right, because number one, and it is number one, it's putting those people off e-cigs and condemning them to stay on the cigarettes, all right, and, you know, costing them their health and their money and everything else. And it's not amusing at all. And secondly, it gives electronic cigarettes, which are a very good thing if you're a smoker, a very bad reputation. And by association, it gives a lot of e-cig distributors and retailers a bad reputation, okay? And it's damaging the future of e-cigs, and it's damaging the sales of e-cigs. Now, at best, what we've got is a bunch of unethical, unscrupulous crooks who are, you know, say, oh, this is a good idea. I could do it, you know. Buy the cheapest e-cigs I get my hands on, make a bunch of outlandish claims, because it's not regulated and it's hard for them to be pinned down and prosecuted, you know, because, like I said, they say it gives you 200 puffs per cartridge. What's a puff? So how can you take them to court and say you misled me, and make them stand there and go, there you go, I took 200 puffs. And the court's going to say, well, we can't do anything about that. You should have thought a bit more about the claims they were making. So they're safe, it seems, at the moment from prosecution. Now, two things are going to happen. Okay, there'll be more and more complaints about those companies, and when there are more and more complaints, it's going to force the UK government, who thus far has made all the right noises of supporting them and seeing them as a good thing and wanting them to stay in circulation and be available, it's going to force them to introduce legislation, restrictive legislation, that puts all sorts of rules that are not unreasonable, but which are very expensive to comply with. If you have to start doing lab tests and saying all your ingredients in every sort of e-liquid that you sell, even though it's all pretty much the same, bar a change in the flavourings, that's going to drive a lot of small companies out of business. And it's going to remove choice for the consumer, and the nice vaping community and all the rest of it I was just talking about is going to disappear. Think about that. Now, if you drive all the small companies out of business, and only people with millions can afford to get into it and comply with the legislation and do all the lab tests and the rest of it, who benefits? Think about that. Let's follow the money, as they like to say. If you're a mad conspiracy theory buff, follow the money, okay? And if you follow the money, it's easy to see that all these companies that are ripping people off, and in doing so destroying the reputation and the potential of electronic cigarettes, are playing right into the hands of the tobacco companies and the pharmaceutical companies, because it's allowing them to keep customers, whether they're selling them cigarettes or nicotine replacement therapy, gum and patches and so on. So it's also giving money back to the treasury, the government treasury, in taxes. So those are the three groups that benefit from crooks in the e-cig industry damaging the reputation and the sales of these things. So is it a huge stretch for imagination, and do I have to be a mad conspiracy theorist to suggest what's occurred to me, that they might actually be bankrolling these companies, that there might actually be a mad conspiracy, what seems like a mad conspiracy, but let's not be naive. The cigarette market, and by logically the potential for the e-cig market runs into billions, okay? Those companies aren't going to give up that revenue easily, and they're very threatened by e-cigs at the moment. Now, if they can drive all the competition out of business and keep the sales for themselves, or reduce the competition and get legislation introduced which makes it expensive to supply and distribute these and drives up the price and puts a small person like myself and most other e-cig distributors out of business, all the money comes back to them. So I'm just asking the question, what if they're bankrolling the scamming companies? What if those companies that change their name every time they do a new mail shot or new mail order catalogue, and they change their name from, you know, brilliant e-cigs to fantastic e-cigs to whatever, and keep knocking out these same things in different colours and designs and under different names? Is it that mad to think that the people who benefit from those activities, apart from the quick cash, the people who benefit long term might actually be behind it? Something to think about, I think. But let's hope not. Let's hope that people will watch videos like this. Let's hope that other e-cig vendors and people in the vaping community and the forums will keep people informed on what's a good e-cig and what isn't, and the public will get educated and realise that not all e-cig vendors are trying to scam you. Because it's a great shame if they think that, because they're missing out, and the bottom line is their health's at stake. It's not just about profit. Anyway, people, I'm sorry about the rant. I think that's important. I'd be interested in your comments. I'm going to go back to vaping on my variable voltage now. This is smoking hot ginger beer, exclusive to Switch 2. I love it. Thanks for watching, people. Remember, whatever you do, don't smoke, vape. Cheers now.